What's up, bookworms? This is Megan coming at you with another Cantina conversation. Today's episode features a chat with Diane David. We're talking about her book, My Lady. That book is available now. Such a fun conversation. This is a medieval romance with some spice, but not too much. Not really that bad, actually. But enough for you romance lovers who like that to enjoy. This was a really great chat. Diane David, she's an indie published author, and it was really cool getting to know her story and, kind of her experiences in independent publishing, how she got her book out in the world, and her plans for another one. But either way, I'll let you guys get to it. Here is Diane. So today we've got Diane David. We're talking about My Lady. That book is available now. Diane, thank you so much for joining me. This was such like a lovely surprise, like historical romance. I eat that shit up. I loved meeting your characters and how swoony our hero was, and a lot of the little twists. And you offered more than just like a fluffy romance. You offered a
Well,
bit more than that, which I appreciated. So I'm happy to dig a little bit deeper today.
wait, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So to get started, can you share like a summary of the book so that listeners can follow along with the conversation?
Sure. As you stated, it's a historical romance. It's a medieval historical romance. It takes place in about 1193 England, the time of the Third Crusades. That kind of weighs in a little bit. So it's a story of Megan and Lord Oric of Lionswood. Megan is a noble, but she is kidnapped as an infant in an act of revenge. And she's raised by a loving blacksmith and his wives, but she never knew of her noble birth. So later, when she's older, she's once again separated from her father, and she enlists the aid of Lord Oric to help her return to her home under his protection. But it is she who must play the protector when traitorous members of his party attack. So that's where it starts. She saves his life, but he's wounded, so she must tend to him. So they're there in the woods for several days, and that's when their romance really begins, out there in the woods. And while they're there, we get a glimpse of his backstory and his demons, because I talks a little bit about what he witnessed in the Crusades and fighting in the Crusades. And I imagined him as he was a soldier, right? So he would maybe have a little PTSD. And I work with veterans today, so that's just a thing that touches me. So I imagined him having that. So he talks about that a little bit. And I can't imagine any worse fighting than hacking somebody with a sword. That had to be gosh at the time. But anyway, I will say this, we do learn that he is betrothed. And though his attraction to Megan gets harder and harder to resist throughout the story, and that'll leads, of course, to sexual tension, but I don't want to get too much way there. But he keeps calling her lady. And though she keeps protesting because she's not a noble, or so she thinks, he ignores her. He tells her he witnessed many acts of cowardice by nobles in the Crusades and many acts of bravery by commoners. To him, he doesn't judge a person by their title. He judges them by their actions. And to him, Megan has proven herself. And she's a strong woman. And even if she's a bit stubborn, and he knows that too. Respect that.
Yeah, it was just so cute because he's like this handsome, swoony, hits all the tropes, like knight in shining armor, literally. But then he just gets like tongue tied, or like he gets thrown for a loop. His feathers get ruffled a little bit because he from this like beautiful woman, and
Yeah.
they definitely have like sexual and like attraction, like chemistry, and he's just oh fuck. I don't like he doesn't know what to do with himself. I love it. I
Well,
love to see it. I
and
love it when you put your characters into like uncomfortable situations.
he struggles with his sense of duty throughout the story, and then his attraction and love for Megan. So that is a big struggle for him through the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So piggybacking off of, I want to go into your background a little bit. Can you go over that and like maybe what led you? Because it's like your debut, right? It's like
Yeah.
the only book you've published so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I'm gonna explore like how you brought the story into the world and like your experience in your like publishing and releasing the story and all that
Oh,
stuff.
sure. I actually started writing this about 30 years ago. Believe it or not, I think I told you.
Okay.
And I finished it probably about 25 years ago. Then my children were little. It was a whole different time period. I just loved romance. Everything about romance. I read romance, historical romance. I love historical romance movies. Braveheart is my favorite movie for a reason. I don't know,
Oh,
just love everything about it. This book was inspired. There was a a made-for-TV movie. There's Ivanhoe, there's the book, of course, and then there's had several movies made off of there was a made-for-TV movie, Ivanhoe, and that takes place in the same time period, and I think that sparked a little bit of the inspiration for this story, honestly. But back then, I took some writing courses. I'd always loved writing. I wrote poetry, had some poetry published and things, but I just was inspired. What if I had a story about a girl who was kidnapped? She was a noble, but she was kidnapped, didn't know she was noble, and it just started from there. And I started writing it, and I would get inspired. Well, it was funny. I kept a notebook by my bed because I would be, as you're falling asleep, you get ideas, you get scene ideas, you get some dialogue that pops in your head, or when you're in the shower, you know how that happens. You get rich inspiration in the weirdest places. And you write it down. And so I had to do my research back then. There was no internet. I had no internet. There was no, I was at the library sitting, taking notes. I didn't even have a cell phone. So I couldn't take pictures of anything. I had to just sit there with the reference books that you weren't even allowed to take out. It was just a whole different world
Oh
now. It's a whole
gosh.
different world now.
Old school.
Yeah. So I went to a writer's conference. I sat down. I met with some agents. I sent out some query letters, sample chapters, but I honestly didn't give it the attention that I should have because I was busy. My kids I was a mom, then I was going through a divorce, remarried, and then I was mom and stepmom, and work full time, volunteer with everything for my kids. So I put my life on hold, my dream, raise my kids, but now I'm an empty nester. And so now I was listening to another podcast. It was a doctor, and he was just talking about how his wife self-publishes on Amazon. So that just lit the spark, and that's where it started. And it's a whole new world. You can self-publish a base. So I am an indie author. So I appreciate you having me on and giving me this little platform there. Spread the word about my book because it's hard being an indie. All the promotion is on you as well. I'm grateful for this. Thank you. But
Is though, absolutely. Because I started doing this from just being approached by traditional publishers, but or the agents who work with the authors. And I think I've just like on a media list for a couple different PR agencies. But yeah, like they would typically do like traditional. And then I also wanted to make myself available to like indie authors too. Cause I'm like, there's so many books that I've read by that were independently published that I still loved. And it's
me
just like
too.
how
Yeah.
is it also just becoming more popular, I think, in the way of indie publishing. And
Mhm.
obviously you have more resources if you're going the traditional route, but
Yeah.
you have fewer cooks in the kitchen, you have more control
Yeah.
if you're doing the independent route. And it's just like you just gotta find how to fulfill those little like pockets of need, like advertising, marketing, getting the reviews out, getting like connecting with people who might be interested in this genre. So it's and yeah, I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I was just like, I'm just like I go with an open mind because you never know. But I haven't been sorely disappointed. I've liked a lot of independently published books, so
So
that's
have
why I was
I.
like, "Yeah, of course, yeah, let's chat." But yeah,
Oh,
like My Lady, I loved it. Like I said, I feel like romance it sells for a reason, and obviously, after a certain point, you're gonna get see a lot of the same stuff, but it's we still eat it up,
yeah.
right? People
I
still
do.
love romance, and
And there's such a wide range
yeah,
out
and
there.
it really is, and subgenres and stuff like that. Because 'cause I'm just like, okay, for a love story, yeah, obviously, I love the love part, I love the personalities, everyone looks a happily ever after, but I also appreciate more. If there's a couple little twists and turns or set in an environment or, like, the setting could be its own character almost, and it's just more things for the characters to interact with besides each other and what's at stake. And yeah, it's just all battling of the classes or what you're gonna fight for love or fight for duty. Like
Right.
I said, I love what you threw at our knight in shine. Or I love how you caused him so much strife. I love it. I'm here for it. And then Megan was just like she was trying so hard to just be level headed and to just think logically and just be like, okay, this is not a good idea, or why am I still here?
Right.
She's ready to make the tough decision, but he's just like, oh, it's okay, it's okay.
And oh, wow. Like,
And it's,
yeah.
yeah, I'm a sucker for character growth too, and I think when you added those, because the story starts out with, like, revenge, right?
Yeah.
Like, it starts off with, like, dark subject matters, and I might be bouncing around a little bit,
That's
but I
okay.
kinda wanna explore your process, like, how did you approach the darker themes and integrating them with the overall it's supposed to be, like, a love story or whatever? Because you got kidnapping, murder, betrayal. like implied sexual assault or not on the page it's planned, but it comes up and like loss and or childhood loss and like how did you I just want to explore like your process for that, like how you got into those did you have to get in the zone and then get out of the zone? Like stuff like that.
I just write. Honestly, my style is if I feel it and I could just get it down and hopefully show and not tell great things and put. Like I said, I explored scenes. I wrote. I rewrote. I had some friends that read it, like my beta readers back in the day, and we would kick around. I'd kick around. I did, and then you just sit and think as an author. You think, okay, what if I did this? Make it something. Let's throw this in there. So I have two protagonists, and I have at least two antagonists. So one for each protagonist. Of course, Art needs to find out who wanted him killed, and the person that kidnapped her, kind of comes back later, and so that all works out. And it was just trying. I think I did a good job of wrapping it all up at the end and bringing it all to a conclusion. And the reviews are really good on Amazon and Goodreads, and people seem to like it. And there's twists and plot twists and turns in there that they didn't see coming, I don't think. And they said they don't see coming, but they loved it. And I love that as an author. Just that was fun. But I just wrote, and sometimes was half plotter, half pantser. I would plot things I knew where I wanted to go, but then when you're writing, you just get inspired and go, oh, okay, then as you go, because you get an inspiration. So it's just a process. That's my process. It's half plotting, half pantsing, I would say is my process.
Yeah, yeah, because I'll ask authors that like who because sometimes it could be tricky and sometimes they have to figure it out or like sometimes they shy away from it, but then they had to stick through it. They had to suck it up and do it because it was important to the story.
Right.
And it was like someone I recently interviewed, she's that stuff doesn't bother me. She
Yeah.
says, I have no problem writing about all the dark, gritty stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I had no problem
So I'm
writing
like,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
There are some
yeah.
really dark
That's so
books
funny.
out there. They're not really my thing, but there's some romancer, serial killer slash stalker, dark.
Yeah, I
In my
haven't read
opinion,
any of those yet, or dark romance. I don't know if it's really my thing. Yeah, everybody like I think maybe that's that's where I'm like I could pass. I'm
yeah.
like I'm
You just
okay.
want to
Like I'm
escape
good.
to it with my sweet, my ideal fantasy man, dark, just that protective male character. That's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
man, who's touch her and
yeah.
die. Like he actively loves or he gets annoyed with her, but then he's also like impressed with her at the same time for like he's she didn't listen to me, but I'm glad she didn't kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like we're like with certain things and she knows I know he's right, but I'm gonna do this because otherwise he could die. Like
Yeah.
she like has to make certain decisions because and even though yeah, like they're trying to work together because he's building up his strength to go return home and she's not like a damsel, right? She's
Right.
not a damsel in distress. She's in distress, but she's just like looking around, okay, what am I gonna do? You
Yeah.
know, she's not like fainting with
Right.
the dread of the
Yeah.
impossibility of going like how am I gonna do this on my own? She's more so, okay, shit. She's just,
Well,
hey, well,
thinking,
I need him. Yeah, obviously she was adorable. Like she caught a fish. She would get so excited. I'm like, I was with the reader. I was getting a little excited with her. I was like, oh, good job. Because it's like, yeah, like I have no survival skills. Like kind of joke if I was set in the world of like my favorite fantasy novel, I don't think I would survive like a
well,
day. I think like it's like what we love to see. It's because she didn't grow up like with everything on a silver platter
right.
like she would have. She grew up learning valuable skills or at least like having an approach to life, having the confidence I can at least try. And she wasn't afraid to have to figure it out how to she wasn't super helpless. She was like
I didn't want to write
she knew
helpless.
what she did have over, right?
I wanted her to be a strong.
Hmm.
She wasn't a noble, or so she thinks. For now, she wasn't a
Yeah.
noble, but I didn't want to have her be a just mousy female. That's not who I am, and I wasn't gonna write somebody like that either. I'm glad that you
Well, it's
got
like
that out of that.
multi-dimensional. Like she can still be like beautiful and feminine, but also know how to roll up her sleeves and be willing to do it. Versus he can like our boy Arik, he can Arik, am I pronouncing?
Yeah, or I think it's a direct
Because yeah,
there.
like he's obviously he's like masculine and stuff, but he's got like a soft strength,
Yeah,
right? Like he's got like he has a softer side to him where he doesn't, he's not is not yeah, like you could see that gentle side to him. Like even though he, maybe not maybe because he's used to like treating women that way, but even after he saw like her like strength, her own strength, he was still not he wasn't He was still meeting her halfway, like, he
Mhm.
was still but it's because he was in love, but still
Okay.
I just appreciate, like, the multidimensional characters and, like, how you can really do it, like, it's you found that I found that or my that's just what my interpretation, you found a good balance between, like, plot driven and character driven, because sometimes it could be a little tricky,
Right.
like, I love character growth, but it's if there's not much going on,
Yeah.
it's like it's ha sometimes it can get hard to stay
Yeah.
engaged, vice versa, like, you have a crazy plot, but if the characters, like, are boring,
Right.
that's then it doesn't work.
Every scene has to have advance the plot or character development. And I try to do a little bit of both in each scene. So that's you don't want scenes thrown in there just for the sake of having a scene. And I was never one. It's a pretty quick read. If you're a quick reader, you can get through it pretty quickly.
I think I finished it in a
Yeah.
day,
I
in 2
was
days,
never one to just
but it was also I was, like, sorry to interrupt, but it was also because it was good, like, I wanted to keep
like,
reading it,
I was
so
like, yeah, great. But I was never one to
yeah.
just read books there's just they'll have 5 pages of just describing the room and the furniture and the wallpaper. It's just to me, that was boring. How do you think? I research castles and I describe the castle, but I may have done it in one paragraph. I didn't go on for 3 pages about the castle and
Right.
everything. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I think from what I hear, from what I read of the reviews, people love the characters, falling in love with the characters as much as I love them. So I love that people just love these people that were in my mind for years, and then they're on a page, and people can enjoy that. I love that you just
Yeah.
people enjoy this story. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. That's
Yeah.
why,
Oh, I can imagine.
yeah. That's why I self published. I didn't even attempt to get an agent this time. I just said I'm just publishing. I just wanted people to read it. I I had this book in a box and on my hard drive for years, and so I just you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tell my kids, say, "Look, I actually have this book. It may be backwards for you, I don't know."
Yeah.
But it's a the cover is just the knight on the holding a sword on the cover, so you can get an idea what that's about. But we
Yeah.
went to like, just you made me think about different time periods. We live in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh, I live, and Pittsburgh has this great Renaissance festival every year, and my husband and I went a couple weeks ago, and just I love to go there. It's just those are my people. I think. But I had these cards made up. I just would set my book cover and then, like, contact information's on the back, and I would just talk to people. I would ask them first if they were readers, and I would just bring up the book, and everybody was so nice and so receptive, and had a lot of great interest from them, and just because I said, if you're here and you're watching jousting,
That's so
you're gonna
cool.
love
So
this book.
you tried to find an audience based on the time period, based on the genre?
Yeah,
Like, that's so fun.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Have
just
you
love
thought
it.
about going to any author signings or conventions and stuff like
I'll
that?
look into it. I haven't yet, but I would love to do that. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great.
My friend, she published a trilogy through Amazon. It was her story is similar where her friend was like, "Wait, I'm like her friend, like she publishes like a thriller, I think, like mystery. Well, she's oh, I did it. And then so my friend who does the romance, and she like dark romance. I was beta reading for her because I'm like, I'm supporting her. I was like, I bought paperback copies, even though it was
Right.
available on Kindle. I was like, no, I'm gonna support you here. Come sign my books. You come sign my books. But yeah, it was her friend was like, what? I did it through Amazon. She was like, what? And so
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I'm doing this now. Cause she's like,
Yeah.
she's always been a writer, either short stories or like she has ideas and stuff. And she comes to me, she's like, I'm gonna be published by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? You know?
So, yeah.
And she just recently went to her first book signing and I tagged along with her for like moral support because it was like her first one. And she was like, otherwise she would have been like at her like signing table by herself.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I do this stuff, so I'm like, yeah, I'll pass out my bookmarks. I'll hopefully get more listeners and I'll learn some stuff for myself because it was like a whole like 3 day conference with panels for
Right.
writers and stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun. It was just funny because I was like, oh, I'm like her inadvertent like little assistant. Because I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'll help you set up. Yeah, I'll help you carry your things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I manned her booth while she was off like doing her own exploring and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. But she had a decent amount of pre-orders and then she brought books to sell and she
Right.
sold out of all of them within 2 hours. So
Right.
I would say even though, yeah, like you never know like what kind of outreach or exposure
Right.
something like that could do for you.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
fun. I'm in the local
absolutely.
there's a local bookstore near where I work, in the town that I work, where I have signed copies that are available there. And then
Yeah.
there's little libraries that people put in their yard. There's little houses with books in them. I put some written some notes in them, and put some around. I just wanted people to read it. I honestly am not expecting to live off of this. As a career, I have a full-time job. I'm a paralegal, pays very well. This is so fun. Yeah, this
There
is
you go.
yeah.
Yeah. You gotta scratch that itch.
Yes.
You just gotta you still wanna get your work, your art, out in the world,
Yeah.
and you wanna connect with people or something.
I
I
just
get it.
I just like to read the reviews, so I would encourage your listeners, if you do read it, I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it, you could rate it and leave a review. That is so helpful for especially for indie authors to do, and it just
Yeah.
makes our day. It lifts our heart every time, "Oh, there's a new review. Let's see you read it," and I just love to see how
You just
people.
gotta be careful though,
Oh,
because I've
I
heard so many
know.
authors say you can't read your own reviews. Like,
Yeah. Therefore
yeah, that's
nothing.
why I try to be fair, and I try to, because if I'm not into women's fiction, sometimes women's fiction, I have a hard time just really getting sucked into it. But there have been times where I'm like underwhelmed by a book, but I still have a great conversation with the author. I try not to, and there's books where I'm obsessed with the book and I love it, but maybe the interview doesn't flow that
Yeah.
well. And it could go either way. So when I leave reviews, I try to be fair, and I try to be like, respecting it for the genre that it's in. Even if I review a romance book and it's just a romance or it's a sports romance, like I review it based on what it is, or like a women's fiction. If I have a hard time getting engaged or getting sucked in, I try not to base it off of that. If it wasn't for me, then that's not the author's fault. It's just a genre.
Right.
Like it's gonna be someone's cup of tea. It'll be someone's jam. And so I'm like, yeah, if you're into women's fiction or you're into this genre, like the contemporary, non-fantasy, non-explicit romance, not whatever, then yeah, this is something that you'll probably get into because the writing was good, or like
Right.
the details were good, or the characters were engaging, stuff like that. But overall, if I'm like, I'm looking at my reading list, I'm looking at my to be read pile, and it's
The
just
list keeps growing.
like staring me in the face while I'm reading this book that I'm trying,
Yeah. You have a different I
and
mean,
that's
you
what gets a little
yeah,
tricky.
you have a different you review when you do this podcast, so you're a little different. I have books where I have not finished. Of course, this is not my cup of tea, but I don't leave bad reviews because as an author, I don't wanna do that to
Yeah.
anybody. So, it just wasn't my cup of tea, like you
Yeah,
said.
I don't
Yeah.
yeah, and if it's 3 star, if I'm rating it 3 stars or below, I won't, like, yeah, I won't talk about it really, and I also won't like, I hear authors, like, they get tagged in bad reviews, and I'm like, "Why?" Like, why are these reviewers, like, tagging on Instagram or TikTok, like, bad reviews? Like,
Yeah.
you don't think they already know this?
Right.
Like, they don't need a reminder, alone people who are not even bestsellers, it still hits the same, right? Bestseller author gets that type of review, it's gonna hit them still negatively, same as like an indie author. It's like, I don't know, I don't understand why why are you tagging these people? That's like
Yeah.
they're babies.
Yeah, well,
Give
true. Or for the most part, though, I've loved Instagram, which has been really great for me. I met a lot of great people. Like you said, there are a lot of great indie authors out there where I've read their books, and they're really good. God love the traditional people who are traditional publishers. I hopefully maybe someday that would be me. But there are also a lot of indie authors and a lot of indie stories that are really good. So don't limit yourself. I would tell
Yeah.
your listeners, don't limit yourself. If you like the genre, try it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I make sure to tell people, like, readings and reviews help so much. If you can, just hop on over and write a few words or just click that star.
It's very
It
helpful.
helps out so much,
It does. And if
and
you're
so I know pre-orders help too, but sometimes it's, like, hard to get people to spend money on something that they have no idea about. One of my close friends, yeah.
I was just gonna say
No, I was gonna say one of
yeah,
my close friends, I'm just, like, giving her, because I she likes to read, but she doesn't wanna buy something. She doesn't wanna purchase it. She's not sure if she's gonna like it, and then she does the library, but sometimes there's a long wait list on something that she wants to read,
well,
and let me just start lending you my book, like, because and I'm, like, bouncing around of what I recommend to her, but yeah, it's like, I know it's hard for readers for you as an author to reach out because, like, you wanna respect the reader's time and you wanna respect their resources
right,
and the brain energy that they have to dive into your world,
right.
and yeah, it could be really tricky, but I'm
My
like,
lady was described
say what you want about Amazon, but Kindle Unlimited, I think, is, like, a great thing, and it's doing a
mhm,
lot for indie publishers
right.
like you.
I think I read 40% of the books on the, electronic copies of the books or indie authors. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I read. So yeah. So, but if you're like me, I pick my next read by reading reviews. So that's why, if I love a book, I will leave a good review because I want to encourage other people to find this nice story. So I hope
Mhm.
I'm glad that this podcast is helping too. So thank you for spotlighting My Lady too. But
No, yeah, absolutely. Like this is a book I'm comfortable recommending to people who, like, obviously people who like romance genre, but then even if you want to go into that historical romance subgenre,
cool.
and the more historical fiction I read, the more I realize I enjoy it. Like it's just cool to see stories played out in different time
Yeah.
periods, or even if it's like real life events in history that happen that are where the story is centered around that. I enjoy it. Yeah, it's really cool to discover authors, especially like indie authors like yourself who might have been under my radar had I not just been reaching out and trying to
Yeah,
connect. And
we
then
met
like
on
also trying to
Instagram.
connect readers
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah.
met on Instagram.
That
You're talking about what we're working on, what we might be working on. I am working on, if you read My Lady, you'll know Jocelyn and Edward. They're secondary characters in the book. I'm writing their story, how they got together. It's a prequel.
yay.
It's a prequel because they were already together in My Lady. So we'll see how they came to be and how they got together. But it's
They were
related.
such a cute
Yeah.
couple.
Their story, but they both could stand alone. You don't have to read one with that before the other or either way around. Yeah. That's what I'm working on right now.
I love it. Oh, I'm excited to whenever that's gonna come out. When are you trying to get that finished?
I'm not sure. I'm honestly only like 7 chapters into it, so it's
Okay.
still working full time.
Sorry, I'm
It's
gonna
a
bug you in a year then
okay.
if it's not
All
out
right.
by then.
Okay. In a year, I hope to. In a year be
Yeah, I
done.
know,
Yeah.
right? No, I that's always don't hold yourself to such a horrible timeline, but at the same time, it's like you wanna still keep the momentum going.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love to be retired and be able to do this full time, but unfortunately, I still have to work.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like damn paychecks.
Yep.
Gotta find a way to feed yourself,
Or find your kids.
put a roof over
Yeah.
your head. I'm gonna throw this at you. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
I think the challenging part I mentioned before was just trying to wrap everything up nice and neatly and the ups and downs and weaving the plot and getting everything to come together at the end and finding out. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but we know that she was adopted or Megan was not raised by her noble. So that gets resolved by the end and just wrapping that all and bringing that to conclusion. So I wanted to get that tight and make sure that all worked out. I think one of the most fun scenes I had was the person who did do the kidnapping gets her comeuppance. And that's all. I read that scene, but I liked writing that thing. That was fun. I liked when people get
Yeah,
coming to them.
yeah, but even so, they were when we were talking about characters earlier, I'm like, even the villains or the antagonists, the bad character, I liked them too. I enjoyed
Thank you.
meeting like his stepmom and then the wench or whatever the person who gets her comeuppance. I love like I'm like yeah, like I said, I'm here for it. I'm like, yes, ruffle those feathers, cause some drama, like
We don't need to make those
they're part of the
characters,
story, and it's
yeah,
just I don't know if it's the girl power in me where I'm like, "Yeah, you get 'em." I'm to root for
dimensional.
the bad
But yeah, you
sometimes.
need to make them three-dimensional too. They have to have a little bit of
Yeah.
what motivated them to do this, so we understand
Yeah.
why they did what they did. So not everybody's just black and white. You need to have shades of gray in there for everybody. So yeah, I'm glad you like the villains too.
Especially since the person who started it all, like, you my heart still broke for her a little bit because it's like she's doing this horrible thing. But as a mom of 2 little boys,
Yeah,
I'm like, "Man, who's to say I wouldn't go crazy
yeah,
like that if I lost a child?"
yeah.
I don't even know. I'm hopefully will never know that side of myself.
Yeah.
Like, it's just but
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
that's what
thing
makes
where it's
them
kinda
real.
like
Mhm.
it makes you question a little bit, and it makes you think and be like, "How far would I go? Would I be that
Right.
malicious? Would I be that, like, filled with that seek for vengeance?" Like,
Yeah.
that would be all I could do, and yeah.
That's what makes that right. Yeah. That's how you can relate to them too, the bad guys. You couldn't make them all bad. They have to have a reason, a motivation why they did what they did. So you can relate. And yeah, I would same as you. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, I'm like, what I do. So you can relate. I like
Yeah,
that. I'm glad that
yeah.
you can relate like that. I like as an author, I
Yeah,
love to hear this.
absolutely.
I love to hear the feedback. That's why I love the reviews. I love like your friends will read it and they'll tell you they're your friends. So they're gonna be really honest. But so you get reviews from strangers or you I don't didn't know you before this, and that's an
Yeah.
honest review because you have nothing to you know. So I love that. I love that immerse
Yeah.
yourself in this story and love that you love the characters and yeah, it just makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I could tell the care that you took into not just with the story, but like also just the pacing and making sure that there's like it's I wanted to know what I was invested. Like I was invested in their story. I wanted, and then here and there that tension that was felt and on top of them being like, okay, are we gonna survive? Or like how do we handle this? Or how is Megan gonna fit in? Is she gonna be okay? Who's taking care of her? And like
Yeah.
what decision is he gonna make? And it's for lack of better words, it like bounces around from okay, there's survival, but then there's the awkward social like hierarchy
Right.
of things and it's still that tension and
Yeah.
making interesting characters and interesting side characters. And yeah, I think it's just at the end of the day, it's a romance and they're lovable characters, but you added like enough of the like little twists and stuff. I think you're doing a good job. You have your beta readers, you have your whatever people who you're like, can you read this for typos?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I have hired somebody to help me do the editing. I would definitely hire somebody else just because it was a team of people, which I thought was odd. So each person was reading. I wanted just to deal with somebody, one person through the whole book. I thought that would be best.
Oh,
So
well,
I would definitely
agency,
would,
and there was more than one person that.
yeah. So I would do a different person, different editor, but they helped me format, which is great. And they helped me do the cover, which I love and got a lot of compliments on the covers.
Yeah, it's like when I first looked at the cover, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, exactly like you said, like, you knew what to expect. But yeah, I was curious because I don't, did you want to go with a photorealistic cover? Because I don't know. Sometimes I see like medieval romance, they either go with like the real people or they go with
Yeah.
like animated characters and stuff like that, like more cartoonish. I hate to use that
Yeah.
word
I
cartoonish, but
know, but
because some of them are just done really well. And that's like,
right.
people are like, yes, I want that.
Yeah, I my original actual
Yeah.
concept was just a sword of the man's hand in his gauntlet on this, and the lady's hand on top, but couldn't really find
Oh,
um,
okay.
what I was looking for. They tried a few things, and then they showed me this, and I'm like, oh, I really like that. So well, then they put the lettering on, and I love the style of the lettering, and yeah, and just seeing your name on the cover is cool. She dreamed about it for so long. It's your
Yeah.
name on a book, so yeah, so that was
I know.
so the concept I have for my Lord is, which the book I'm working on now, is to maybe have the woman on the front because it was my lady, but there's a guy on the front.
Ooh.
So my Lord and have the woman on. So, but you won't see her. Same thing, just like maybe her
And that would
torso.
kinda be like yeah. No, that would be good to have a guideline to match it, and that would
Yeah.
almost I could see that being sexy. It's my lord, but it's like it's like a woman,
Mhm.
her lord, like,
Yeah, or maybe.
it's like with the my lady, it's, oh, like regal, and it's my lord. I don't know why it, like, takes that spin for me. I don't know. Maybe because I know now,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'll have to
it's so
get to the
funny.
end of the book to see where that fatal my lady fully came in. Calls her my lady, but the my lady they'll see later at the towards the end of the book.
I just love the idea of Arik, like knight in shining armor, like this noble man, and who's just got the morality of a saint.
Yeah.
And he's just
I don't want to
he's
make him too
gone. He's
perfect.
like head over heels, and he for her. I love it.
Yeah, I didn't wanna make him too perfect, that's why I threw that, like, PTSD in there a little bit, so he has his little thing
Yeah,
and he the things he went through in the war, so you see a little bit of that, but
a little vulnerability.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, but I'm glad you like
yeah,
the
for sure.
characters. I mean, like you said, they are your babies, they're an author's baby, so these people exist to me even though they don't really exist, but they do to me, they're real.
Sometimes they don't leave you alone.
Yeah,
I
and you're
imagine
writing, you say,
Jocelyn and
"Wait a
Edward
minute."
didn't leave you alone. Maybe that's why you were writing a book for them.
Yeah, and you're in there writing, you're saying, "No, he wouldn't do that," and you change no, or she might not do she wouldn't do that, so you change things around, like so you get to know them pretty well. So, yeah, they're my babies.
Yeah, 100%.
There's the fantasy man that I think to me anyway, I was always the romantic at heart, and so, I mean, like you said, the knight, the protective male character, that just resonates with me. I love that, so that's why I read it.
Mhm.
That's
Book boyfriend.
yeah,
I tell my husband, like, "Sorry, I have 4 book boyfriends," and he's just like, "Okay," like,
yeah. I had someone on Instagram that just it was must've been boyfriend day or something the other day. I don't know what she said.
Oh,
Like
okay.
she made a post that to her favorite boyfriend, which was Auric, and so she shared it, and I put it in my
Oh,
stories. Yeah, so I was
yay.
like, so it's my favorite book boyfriend too. Sorry, husband.
I know. It's so funny. It's just like, I no shame. Like, why you're competing with a fictional
Yeah,
character. It's okay.
yeah,
Take
he
some
doesn't
notes.
exist.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, speaking of your babies, what advice do you have for Megan? What advice do you have for Arik?
Yeah, I didn't think of that one. Right. Wow, that's a tough one. I didn't know. Honestly, advice. I think Art. To him, he does make up his mind on what his choice is at the end. So that would be my advice: to follow your heart. And Megan, just you are worth it. You are, no matter if you have a title or not, you're worthy and you're worth loving. So that would be my advice: to just accept that, gracefully accept that love.
Yeah, that's good advice, like, all around, like, I wanna give the characters a hug, I wanna just hug and be like, "It's okay, like,
Yeah.
stop it, you shut your head up," like, what so I just, like yeah, like, I'll just get, like, really into the story and some well, that's, like, how you are, like, as a writer, if you do it well, you connect with your readers and
Yeah.
through your characters, through this story, you make them feel things. There have been a couple of authors where I've interviewed, I'm like, "I got a bone to pick with you, so buckle up." I'll straight up be like, "Okay, can you clarify this one thing?" Or, "Okay, why did you do this?" Or,
Right.
so, yeah, it's just it just depends. It's like I said, it's like a slippery slope. It's tricky to, like to just make that click, make that connection, and make your characters make that connection through, like, real life issues. Like, it reminds me of no matter what the time period, no matter the genre, there's
Right.
still, like,
Human.
still human problems, and it's yeah, obviously, it's a little outdated, but some of yeah, I could totally see in today's day and age an arranged marriage or whatever, but they find love somewhere else. It's like, it happens, and it's even if the situation's not likely to happen these days, it's just the forbidden love, or your family would never accept like that, and so
Yeah, that could happen.
and then with the steadfast woman who's not afraid to get her hands dirty and who's quick on her feet or quick on she's able to think on her toes with a man who saves the day, but then he needs saving, and I just yeah, it's relatable, and it's I just even though if I don't know, I was just swooning hard, I think, and I was just like, "Oh, when are they gonna get together?" And then they do, and then it's, "Wait, why aren't they together? Why aren't they, like why don't they, like, just say s"
They don't just get together
Yeah,
happily ever
and it's
after.
sad because you can see the angst, and they're both, like, heartbroken over it, and you just wanna be like, "It's okay." It's just, like, the heartbreak, I think was just, like, a sensitive string for me for whatever reason, probably for other author or writers readers too, is just, like, it hurts to be around them because
Or
they can't have them, and it's yeah, it's I don't know why, but that, like, punches pretty
I wanted to grab the reader too that way, that just when you think things are going well and then bam, something happens, and I don't want to give too no spoilers, but they just think and then they work that
yeah.
out and then bam, it else happens.
Yeah,
So I like that roller coaster ride. I
it's
hope their
just oh,
readers love it.
yeah, and when the confrontation happens, I was just there, like, once the ball starts rolling and things start getting revealed, I was just like I, like, felt myself, like, getting, like, up in my seat and like, "Well, finally, let's get some answers, people. Let's have our characters get some answers, because other" and it was just like how you didn't wanna be have it be too perfect, but you wanted to close things out and, like,
Right.
bring it all to fruition, and it worked out so well, and it was just
I'm
like,
glad.
just yes, they both got it. So you touched on this earlier, but yeah, what's next for you? So you're working on the next one and
Sorry.
you're hoping to get it out in the world within a year, I'm guessing. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you could talk about?
Just give you what a little what so far, the little summary so far is as we find out Edward, he's a bastard son. So he's not his father had say legitimate children. So they inherited the lands and the title and he did not. So that's something that weighs on him. He doesn't feel worthy because he feels like he's a bastard. And Jocelyn story, she comes from an abusive father. She's watched her mother be abused by her father, so she actually doesn't really want to get married. She wants to run away to a nunnery and just not have to deal with that. But while they have a tournament, her father has a tournament, and turns out she's the prize for whoever wins the tournament. They get to wed her, and so that's interesting. But she wants nothing to do with it. And of course, Edward is in the tournament, but he's there for another reason. He's there because he wants to get not revenge, or maybe, but his stepbrother, his half brothers, the legitimate heirs who inherited everything. He's got it out. I mean, he just wants to defeat them any way he can. So he goes to the tournament to defeat them. And here he finds out that Jocelyn he could marry her if he wins the tournament. And that's just that's a little taste. Yeah. He doesn't want to get
Yes, I'm here for
married.
the
Yep.
drama.
He doesn't want
Yeah,
to get married. He doesn't want to get married. So we'll see. I'm guessing we know by my lady, they get married. How
I
they get
love
there.
it.
Yeah.
I love yeah, I think it's fun, especially because you know how it ends up to just see, like, the banter or the resistance or the denial or and then just be like, "You guys don't even know." Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, because I loved them as a couple and separately too. So, yeah, I would definitely look forward to seeing their story, especially from what you're describing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be juicy and funny and dramatic, and we're just like, "Yes, put them through it. Put them through
I
it."
intend to. I intend.
Yeah. Okay, so Diane David, My Lady, that book is available now. Where can we find you online and on social media?
Sure. I would love for anybody who reaches, especially to reach out to me on social media. I'd love to hear what you think of it. I'm on Instagram. It's all lowercase. It's Diane_David_author. And I'm on Facebook, Diane David hyphen author. Not on Facebook as much as Instagram. I spend a lot more time on Instagram, but I don't have a
Me too.
website yet. I need to work on that. That should be coming. Hopefully, I need to get.
If you look around enough or if you connect with other indie authors and maybe see what they have
Yeah,
done,
we can do
stuff
that.
like
And
that.
my daughter, she's a makeup artist. She has her own website. She did it herself. So I just,
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
help me out.
Just be like,
Help me out,
honey, I love
Rachel.
you. Make
Yeah.
my website.
Yeah. I gave birth to you.
Exactly. There you go. What are you doing? Like, you got kids that are tech savvy and who know how to do it, and they probably know how to do it cheap on a budget or even for free.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's just you got to use your resources, stuff like that as well. Especially like the more titles you release, the more books you write.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
would want to have
I
like a
need it.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm a little
It's
tech
okay, one
savvy.
step at a time.
I work in an IP law firm. I've been there for almost 20 years now, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So
it was pretty,
you have to like
yeah,
act like you know what you're talking about,
it
right?
was
Like
pretty helpful when I wanted to copyright my book. That was helpful. I had a friend help me do that. That comes in handy
there
first
you
thing things.
go. Some of your skills like
Yeah,
transferring over
yeah.
your 9 to 5, helping with your 5 to 9.
It works sometimes
There
it's
you go.
till 3 a.m. maybe. Sometimes you're really writing and
I
you're
know with
really,
because I have a full-time job and I have 2 young boys, like 3 and 7.
well,
So, yeah, and it's hard to manage your time and be like, I know that, okay, I know how long just like the reading, it's if I'm sucked into a book, I'll finish it in 2 days, no problem. But if it's like a little like more like sophisticated, more like where I have to think,
yeah. Okay.
where I have to like connect dots and
Mhm.
keep in mind of some foreshadowing and shit like that.
Right.
It could take a little bit longer, and especially like the reviews and then just editing an interview. It takes time. It's like a second job, but I enjoy it and I enjoy what I get out of it. But it's yeah, it's just time. It's time consuming. And so I'm right there with you. It's yeah, got a job, got to figure it out. But like I do marketing for my career. So it's like I know some of that stuff crosses over and it
Mhm.
could be super helpful.
Yeah, it's coming. I've been thinking of some things. And I just got to get the domain name first of all, and then go from there. And be pretty. But so if they want to reach out to me, Instagram is where it's at, where you can find me. And I'd appreciate it if they
There you
do read
go.
it.
Yes.
I would love to hear from them. I love to hear, and if you follow me and just tell me you read it or you heard about it on this podcast and you read it and enjoyed it, and I'd love, yeah,
Yeah.
love to hear that.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and I like I said, like, I have no qualms. I really genuinely enjoyed this book, and I would definitely, recommend My Lady by Diane David. I definitely recommend this for all you historical romance lovers, and it is a little spicy. It does have a little bit of
Oh
spice,
yeah,
so people who like that crossing that little threshold, it's got something for everyone. Like,
definitely
it's
open
clean enough, but
door.
it's got
Right.
those moments where it's okay. Yeah,
It's an open
it's
door, so if people don't like the open door, it's definitely an open door, but I'd say spice level 3, you know, so,
yeah, obviously, I haven't read much more raunchy shit, but yeah,
yeah.
like I like it, I enjoy it, and I know like authors, they write that in there because that's also what they enjoyed to read. So I'm like, there are people who they like romance, but there's definitely a line there. They like romance, they don't like sex scenes. They skip over
Right.
it. But then there's who they like romance, but then they're like, "I need some
Yeah.
spice. I need a little
Well,
something in
that's
there,
part
like
of
at least a little
romance. Yeah,
something." And
yeah,
I
for
think
me.
I'm in the latter where I like I don't know what it is. We just eat that shit up, not just the romance part, but like the intimacy. It's just like something about it that just it really it hits for a reason. It's popular for a reason.
Yeah,
And you got enough sprinkled in there that I think will scratch that itch for the romance lovers
good.
too. You gotta find your people and you gotta find that sweet spot.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Absolutely.
I think it from the reviews and from people I talked to, that I had one person who doesn't like open doors, so she didn't finish it. But I don't think it's too graphic. I honestly don't think it's too graphic. She's just we call her the
I
nun
don't think
lady.
it's too graphic at
We
all,
call her the nun
no.
lady because she's really prim and proper. So maybe it's just her. But yeah, that's
It's
nice. I'm
well,
into
yeah,
it.
well, it's like medieval times, but like humans been having sex for like ever. It's part of the human nature. It's part of the human experience. Like it's not, and if you don't like it in your face and have to like imagine stuff in your head, like from the scenes, that's fine. That's your thing. But I don't know. I just it's part of life. So it's like some people though they like the more smut, the better, the more
Right.
spice, the better, and I'm like, it depends, like, I like that in between. Of course, I like all the scenes, but a lot the plot too,
Mm,
and I want a little bit the twists and the turns and the maybe the pearl clutching moments and the gasp moments and
right.
the take my head for a spin moments, and in addition to, like, how they come together
Right.
and that little break and the scene where it's like that's the fun part. It's the fun part. It's fun. And it's like how do you explain it without like people who like it, they get it, and people who don't, they're just I've never spoken to anybody directly about like why if it makes them uncomfortable, it's not their thing. That's one thing. But if they're like appalled, I'm like, "Oh, why did you pick the Adam?" Like, you have yeah, like you said, like, reviews, like, you have to know what to expect. If you want a romance where it's either closed doors or just glossed over, then there's a community for you, there's books for if you want something a little
Well,
bit
tried to
more,
put
you
that
want
in
the
the
open door, but,
description
like, yeah, like you were
so
saying,
people
it's
would
not I don't think
know.
it's that graphic at all. It was, borderline, like, tasteful and spicy. Like you said, it's not I've definitely read more explicit
Yeah.
stuff, but My Lady, it's, like, with a romance, and I think maybe that was I was pleasantly surprised with how just, like, how open door you were. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed those
Yeah.
parts, and there's no I just want people to feel no shame in enjoying
Yeah,
reading
I
spicy
wrote
parts
it
because
as
it's
more romantic, more romance and heart-wrenching, grabbing your heart, so everybody sex is a fact of life, but they came together. It wasn't just explicit for explicit's sake. It was there was feelings and emotions behind it. Yeah, and that's what I wanted.
yeah, because she's I haven't been touched by a man, and he's what? He can't believe it, but then and then he thinks about it, he's okay, it makes sense, and then but she, like I like how unapologetic, like, it wasn't shameful for her. Obviously, like, she's a human being, she wants it, and he's a very attractive man. There's chemistry between them. There's no shame in her wanting to be with him intimately and to feed those urges, even though they're not married or they're not engaged, they're not betrothed, they're not, like, it's not they're just feeding on that honest basic attraction and feelings for each other, and it's not it's it's just natural. That's how I got it from that's what I got
Oh,
from the book.
great.
It was just like 'cause she's yeah, okay, she's a virgin, but, like, she's not super sheltered, and she's listening to her body, and she knows what she wants, and she's trying to give him permission, like, it's okay. Giving herself she's already given herself
Yeah.
permission, like, it's okay. She's giving him permission, that's just yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing, like, an interesting way to incorporate intimacy and love and sex and, like, what there's different levels of it and tying it or untying it from the human emotions, and it's empowering too. I think a lot of the reason that women love romance so much is because there's no in a world where we're, like it's getting better, but it's, "Oh, like, women are supposed to be more modest." It's no, have you seen thirst traps online? Like, women go feral. Like, it's women are horny, women are attracted, women notice things almost just as much as men. It's just looks different. It just looks different, and so I that's what I really liked about Meg's character was she was just she knew what she didn't know. She was aware, she was self-aware in all aspects of it, and I loved that she was just there wasn't too much, like, internal conflict. She was like the internal conflict rested at mostly for him. For her, she was like, "No, it's okay because I want this, and I trust you."
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Okay, you don't have to tell me twice." I appreciated
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and her name's Megan, so even though she spells it differently than you spell her name.
You know,
Sure.
I know. I don't know if it's like an old English, 'cause I think Megan comes from it's like a Welsh name, but my parents picked it because my sister at the time, they were trying to think of ways like what to name me, and my sister at the time, she like had a nice friend named Megan, and they were like, "Oh, Megan McCarthy, that sounds
Yeah.
good," and that's just how it happened.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, my mom liked Bridget or Paige, and I'm like, how funny would it have been if you named me Paige because I'm like obsessed with
Right.
reading? How funny would that have been? Because like my mom loves reading too. Like she does her crosswords, she does her word searches, she does the little games, and I'll recommend her. I'll buy books for her for presents and gifts and stuff that I know that she'll like. So it's just really funny. I'm like, these certain traits that I could see from my mom, and it's so funny. I'm like, hilarious would my name if my name was Paige. Like that would be too fitting. Little did they know.
Yeah, I
Little
was
did they
almost a
know.
Donna, they tell me, so it could have been Donna David on the book, but no, we're glad it Diane, 5 letters, David, 5 letters, it just goes well together.
What could have been? What could have been? But Diane David, obviously, that has a good ring to it.
Yeah, that's
The
cool.
alliterations.
I liked it. I was born with that's my maiden
Yeah.
name, so that's the name,
Yeah, you got it.
yeah. That's what I'm stuck with. Yeah, no,
There you go. There you go. So, David, my lady, that book is available now. Thank you so much for your time, for your authenticity, for your answers. Like I said, I recommend this book to romance lovers, medieval slash historical romance lovers. It's got a little something for everyone. And yeah, like when and if you publish your next one, I would love to talk to you
when
about Edward and Jocelyn. Love to welcome you back.
great, thank you, and I'd love to come back, and I had a great time, it was a lot of fun, thank you so much.
And there you go. That was Diane David talking about her book, My Lady. That book is available now. Check out the show notes where you can find links to check out Diane online and on social media and where you can purchase the book. While you're searching online for your favorite authors and their work, go ahead and check out Cantina Book Club. Give me a like and a follow. It helps me reach other listeners and readers like yourself. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you can, when you're looking at authors and you really like their work, if you can, hop on over to Goodreads and Amazon and give them a rating and a review. It really helps them out, especially the indie published authors like Diane. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.